Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you woke up feeling genuinely rested? Not just awake enough to function. Not just able to drag yourself out of bed, but truly refreshed with your mind sharp and your energy steady from the moment. Your feet hit the floor. If you had to think about that for more than a second, this video is going to change your life. Here's something that stopped me cold during my 40 years of practice. A landmark study from 2024 followed men in their 50s and 60s who ate the exact same calories. Same food, same portions. The only difference was timing. The men who ate after 7 p.m. had significantly higher blood sugar than the men who ate the same food earlier in the day. The scientists concluded something remarkable. Your glucose tolerance declines as the day progresses. In plain English, your body gets worse at handling sugar as the sun goes down. But here's the part that really shook me. Men who regularly eat after 8 p.m. have a 40% higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. That's not just a number. That's years of your life lost, years of energy lost, years of health lost, years of being able to play with your grandchildren, years of traveling, years of feeling like yourself. My name is Dr. Maxwell, and I've spent 4 decades helping men in their 50s, 60s and beyond take control of their metabolic health. Today I want to walk you through 4 specific foods you should never eat after 7 p.m., and I promise you, number 1 will shock you. Most people assume it's alcohol or sugar or something obvious, but the most dangerous late-night food is something that most men eat thinking it's healthy, something you probably have in your kitchen right now. Before we go further, if you find this valuable, please hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment below telling me what time you usually eat dinner. I genuinely want to hear from the men in this community. Now let's get into it. Coming in at number 4, white rice. Now before you say I've heard this before, stay with me because the real danger isn't what most men think. White rice has a glycemic index around 73. Harvard Health notes that's almost the same effect as eating pure glucose. That's a rapid blood sugar spike followed by a crash. But here's the part most men miss. It's not just the rice. It's the rice at 8:30 or 9:00 clock at night when your body is already winding down. Your insulin sensitivity is at its lowest point of the day, and you're dumping a load of rapidly digesting carbohydrates into a system that is least prepared to handle it. Think of your metabolism like a factory. During the day, that factory is running at full capacity. Workers are there. Machines are humming. Sugar gets processed efficiently. But at night, that factory is shutting down. Workers are going home. Machines are slowing. And when you dump a load of sugar into a factory that's closing for the night, that sugar doesn't get processed. It gets stored, gets converted to fat, and it sits there slowly causing damage. I had a patient, a retired plant manager in his late 60s, who couldn't understand why his morning blood sugar was always high. He ate well. He exercised. He took his medications. But every morning his fasting glucose was elevated. We went through his food log line by line, and there it was. Every night he'd have a small bowl of white rice with dinner around 8 p.m. He thought it was harmless. He was actually spiking his blood sugar right before sleep, and his body had no chance to recover overnight. The fix isn't perfection. It's awareness. If you're going to eat rice, have it earlier in the day. Lunch is fine. Early dinner before 6 p.m. is acceptable. But after 7 p.m., choose something else. Cauliflower rice has a glycemic index around 15. Brown rice is better at 50. But honestly, the best choice is to save your carbohydrates for earlier when your body can actually use them. Small shift, real results. And remember, this is only number 4. What comes next is far more dangerous. Number 3 is something that walks into my office in disguise almost every single week. Fruit. And I know this one surprises almost everyone. Fruit is healthy, right? Of course it is. But healthy doesn't mean healthy at every hour. Fruits contain fructose, a natural sugar. Now here's the part most men don't understand. When you eat fruit during the day, your body has hours of activity ahead to use that sugar for energy. You're moving, you're thinking, you're burning calories. But when you eat fruit at night, especially high-sugar fruits like bananas, mangoes, or grapes, that sugar has nowhere to go. You're about to sit on the couch. You're about to go to bed. That sugar isn't being burned. It's being stored. And here's what makes this particularly dangerous. Fructose that isn't immediately used for energy gets converted to fat in your liver. Over time, this contributes to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is epidemic in middle-aged and older men. And that fatty liver makes you more insulin resistant, which makes your blood sugar harder to control, which creates a vicious cycle that's incredibly difficult to break. Think of your liver like a sponge. During the day when you're active, that sponge squeezes out sugar to fuel your muscles. But at night when you're sitting still, that sponge stays full. And when you add fruit on top of it, the sugar has nowhere to go. It just sits there, soaking in, turning into fat. That's not encouragement. That's biology. The fix is simple. If you want fruit, eat it earlier in the day. Morning fruit, afternoon fruit. Even fruit with an early dinner. But after 7 p.m., choose something else. If you absolutely need something sweet in the evening, berries are a better choice. They have a lower glycemic load and more fiber, which slows down the sugar absorption. But even then, keep the portion small, a handful, not a bowl. And remember, that's only number 3. What comes next is even more dangerous. Number 2 is something I genuinely wish more men took seriously: alcohol. And I know what you're thinking. Dr. Maxwell, you said alcohol was only number 5 in my previous video. And you're right. Alcohol earlier in the day in moderation is less dangerous than many other habits. But alcohol after 7 p.m. is a completely different story. Here's what happens. When you drink alcohol in the evening, it alters your glucose metabolism in ways that persist through the night. A study from 2002 found that ethanol given during evening hours causes your pancreas to pump out extra insulin while you're sleeping. And here's the part that should grab your attention. This can lead to a roller coaster effect. Your blood sugar goes up, then your insulin surges, then your blood sugar crashes, then your body releases stress hormones to bring it back up. All of this happens while you're supposed to be sleeping. The result is that you wake up the next morning with blood sugar that's all over the place. You feel off, but you don't know why. You blame it on a bad night's sleep or getting older, but the real culprit was that evening glass of wine. Alcohol in the evening increases the risk of hypoglycemia the following morning. So you have a drink or two after dinner. You go to bed thinking you're fine, and you wake up with a morning blood sugar that's higher than it should be. If you check your blood sugar, you might notice it's elevated. If you don't check it, you just feel tired and assume it's normal aging. The other problem is that alcohol disrupts your sleep architecture. Even if you fall asleep easily, alcohol fragments your sleep, reducing deep sleep and REM sleep. And poor sleep directly raises your morning blood sugar. Research shows poor sleep can cause a 23% increase in morning blood sugar levels due to elevated cortisol. That's not a small number. That's almost a quarter of your blood sugar spike coming from poor sleep caused by alcohol. So here's my advice. If you're going to drink, do it earlier in the day. A glass of wine with an early dinner before 6 p.m. is very different from a glass of wine at 9 p.m. And avoid the nightcap entirely. That drink right before bed isn't helping you sleep. It's hurting your metabolism. And remember, that's only number 2. The number 1 food you should never eat after 7 p.m. is the one that will shock you the most. Number 1 is something that most men would never suspect. It's not rice. It's not sugar. It's not alcohol. It's high-fat foods. I'm talking about fatty meats, heavy cheeses, creamy sauces, fried foods, anything rich and heavy. I know that sounds almost too surprising to be taken seriously. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Most men think fat doesn't spike blood sugar. And technically that's true. Fat doesn't directly raise your blood glucose the way carbohydrates do. But what fat does is worse. It causes insulin resistance. Here's what the research shows. High-fat meals, particularly meals high in saturated fat, are associated with inflammation and insulin resistance. In plain English, eating a high-fat meal makes your cells less responsive to insulin. Your pancreas has to work harder to move glucose out of your blood. And when you eat that high-fat meal late at night, when your insulin sensitivity is already at its lowest point of the day, you're essentially doubling down on the problem. But here's what really makes this dangerous. A study from 2002 found that the effects of high-fat evening meals persist at least overnight. So you eat a heavy, fatty dinner at 8 p.m., and your body is still dealing with the Metabolic consequences. When you wake up the next morning, that's not just a bad night, that's a bad next day. I had a patient, a construction foreman in his mid-50s. He worked hard. He ate what he thought was a decent dinner. But his numbers were always creeping up. When we looked at his evening meals, it was steak with cheese, creamy pasta dishes, heavy casseroles. He thought he was being careful because he wasn't eating bread or potatoes, but the fat was quietly driving up his insulin resistance, making everything else he ate harder for his body to process. He was working against himself every single night and didn't even know it. The fix here isn't to eliminate fat entirely. Your body needs healthy fats, but shift them earlier in the day. If you're going to have a steak, have it at lunch or an early dinner. After 7 p.m., choose lighter proteins like fish or chicken and prepare them simply. Grilled, baked, not smothered in cream or cheese. Your pancreas will thank you. Now let me bring all of this together. When you step back and look at these 4 foods, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Your body is not the same at night as it is during the day. The same food that fuels you at noon burdens you at 9 p.m. Your glucose tolerance declines as the day progresses. Your insulin sensitivity drops. Your melatonin rises. And every single one of these biological changes makes late-night eating a metabolic gamble. A study published in the journal Sleep found that eating between noon and 11 p.m. resulted in higher levels of blood glucose, insulin, and cholesterol than eating between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. The window matters, and the foods you choose in that window matter even more. White rice after 7 p.m. gives you a rapid blood sugar spike that your evening metabolism can't handle. Fruit after 7 p.m. delivers fructose that your body has no choice but to store as fat. Alcohol after 7 p.m. disrupts your sleep and sends your blood sugar on a roller coaster that lasts into the next morning. And high-fat foods after 7 p.m. drive up insulin resistance, making every other food you eat harder for your body to process. But here's the truth that I want you to take with you. Your body has an incredible ability to heal. I've seen it in patients for 4 decades. Men who make small changes can reverse years of damage. Not overnight, but faster than you think. I had a patient, a 62-year-old retired teacher, who came to me with an A1C of 8.8. That's dangerously high. He was terrified of starting insulin. He was terrified of what his life would become. All we did was move his dinner earlier and cut out these 4 foods. After 7 p.m., 3 months later, his A1C dropped to 6.6. He came into my office and he cried. He said, "Dr. Maxwell, feel like I got my life back." He didn't do anything dramatic. He just stopped working against his own biology. That's what this is really about. Not numbers, not science. Feeling like yourself again. Waking up with energy, having mental clarity, being able to enjoy your retirement, being able to play with your grandchildren without feeling exhausted. That's what's at stake here. Now I want to give you something practical you can use starting tonight. Here's my advice for the men in this audience. First, set a cutoff time. 7 p.m. is ideal. 6 p.m. is even better. Nothing but water after 7 p.m. Not a bite, not a sip of anything with calories. Your body needs that fasting window overnight to repair and restore. Second, if you absolutely must eat something in the evening because you're genuinely hungry, choose protein. A small piece of chicken, a hard-boiled egg, some turkey. Protein has minimal impact on blood sugar and actually helps stabilize it overnight. Avoid carbohydrates, avoid sugar, avoid fat. Third, shift your larger meals earlier. Lunch should be your biggest meal. Early dinner should be your second biggest. And what you eat after 7 p.m., if anything, should be minimal. This isn't about deprivation. It's about working with your body's natural rhythms instead of against them. Fourth, pay attention to how you feel. Try this for just 1 week. Stop eating after 7 p.m. Cut out these 4 foods at night. Pay attention to your morning energy. Pay attention to your sleep quality. Pay attention to your morning fasting blood sugar if you check it. I promise you, the difference will be noticeable. Your body will tell you what's working. You just need to listen. And fifth, don't aim for perfection. Aim for progress. If you have a late dinner one night, don't beat yourself up. Just get back on track the next day. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be consistent. Small changes, repeated day after day, compound into big results. If you're still watching at this point, you're serious about your health. And I want you to do something right now. Tonight, look at your dinner plate. Ask yourself, am I eating any of these 4 foods after 7 p.m.? If you are, make a change. One change. That's all it takes to start. Just one change tonight, then another tomorrow, then another the day after. That's how men transform their health. Not in a single dramatic moment. Through small choices, repeated consistently. Men don't lose their health in a single dramatic moment. They lose it slowly through the small choices repeated day after day. Year after year, a bowl of rice at 9 p.m. seems harmless. A piece of fruit after dinner seems healthy. A glass of wine before bed seems relaxing. A heavy meal late at night seems satisfying. But these aren't harmless. These are the quiet killers. The habits that don't feel dangerous but that add up over decades to metabolic disease. Poor sleep and lost years. The men who live longest, who stay sharpest, who maintain their health into their 80s and 90s. They don't have any secret. They just understand that small choices compound. They understand that what you do after 7 p.m. matters just as much as what you do before. They understand that your body has a rhythm, and when you work with it, instead of against it, everything gets easier. Your blood sugar stabilizes. Your sleep improves. Your energy returns. Your health stays strong. I had a patient who followed this advice for 6 months. He lost 15 pounds. His blood sugar normalized. His doctor reduced his medications. And when I asked him what the biggest change was, he said, "I wake up feeling like a human being again." That's what this is about. Not numbers, not science. Feeling like yourself again. Waking up with the energy you had in your 30s, having the mental clarity to enjoy your life, being able to be present for the people you love. If this video helped you understand why what you eat after 7 p.m. matters more than you thought, please hit that like button. It helps more men find this information. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. And drop a comment below. Tell me, what time do you usually eat dinner? And are you willing to try moving it earlier? I read every comment and I genuinely want to hear from you. And if you want to go deeper on this topic, check out this video right here on my channel. It's about the 5 habits shortening men's lives, and it connects directly to everything we just talked about. This is Dr. Maxwell. Take care of yourselves, gentlemen. Your health is worth protecting. Your life is worth protecting. And remember, the best time to start making these changes was years ago. The second best time is tonight.